sweetheart, this entire lawsuit is a waste of court resources.
Blake's image is now trashed, so now she wants to kind of pull back.
And honestly, Justin has not been treated fairly.
Lively is now pushing for strict secrecy, insisting that the evidence be restricted to attorneys' eyes only. Baldon's team, however, finds this move deeply ironic, pointing out that someone who's been outspoken about her accusations in the media suddenly wants to keep key evidence hidden. They argue this isn't truly about safety, but rather an attempt to control the narrative and safeguard a reputation that's already been thrust into the public eye.
On the 20th, which was I think last Friday, Blake's team filed for a slightly modified type of protection order that would include increased protections to third parties. Now, we covered this filing. I told you that essentially what was buried in it was what I would describe as the Taylor Swift clause. I'm just calling it the Taylor Swift clause, essentially allowing the respective lawyers to just deem anything that they want, attorneys' eyes only.
Justin Baldon's legal team is firing back at Blake Lively, and they're not holding back. In a letter submitted to the judge on Tuesday, Baldon's attorneys accused Lively of deliberately trying to conceal crucial evidence from the public. They argue she's pushing for a stricter protective order to keep important documents and information out of sight. And let's just say they're making their objections loud and clear.
I'm going to show you what they said. They said, given how actively the Lively parties have publicized and litigated Ms. Lively's claims in the media, we are surprised to now learn how vehemently she wants to prevent the public from accessing.
The legal battle escalated after it came to light that when Lively first filed her lawsuit in December, she and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, allegedly handed over a supposedly confidential administrative complaint to the New York Times. Baldon's lawyers aren't letting this slide. They claim the so-called confidential material included thousands of pages of original documents, text messages, and emails, information that was never intended to go public. Yet, Lively's team had no issue sharing it with the media. Now, with Lively pushing to keep key evidence sealed from public view, Baldon's legal team isn't buying it. They argue that if she was genuinely concerned about protecting sensitive details, why would she have leaked so much in the first place?
Lively parties provided the New York Times with Ms. Lively's otherwise confidential administrative complaints filed with the California Civil Rights Department and thousands of pages of original documents, including text messages and emails. So that's kind of like a pretty strong argument, because they're saying, we're just like to remind the public that it was clearly her team who leaked private text.
But things get even murkier. This isn't the first time Blake Lively's team has faced accusations of hiding information. They previously attempted to suppress a recording of an interview with her agent, Ari Emanuel. However, despite their efforts to keep it under wraps, the recording ended up getting leaked.
Lively and Ryan Reynolds' powerful super agent appeared on a podcast explaining why he believed Blake Lively instead of Justin Baldoni, is how he called it. And then something odd happened. The podcast didn't get recorded. Neither the audio nor the YouTube video, both just miraculously didn't get recorded. Well, turns out it did.
This raises plenty of questions. Why was Lively's team so determined to make that recording disappear? And more crucially, what was said during that interview that made them so desperate to keep it hidden? Well, the leaked recording is finally out, and you're about to hear exactly what they didn't want you to know.
The record show, for those listening at home, Ari just slit his throat. I mean, it was a fucked up, bad situation that Baldoni, whatever he's doing. Now, he was your client too, it's over here. Yeah. Right.
Let the record show, for everyone listening, Ari just made a throat-slitting gesture. It's a seriously messed up situation. That Bon, whatever his name is, what he's doing now, and wasn't he your client too? Until I fired him, right? As if things weren't dramatic enough, Ryan Reynolds took it a step further and threw fuel on the fire. And he did it on national TV. During Saturday Night Live's 50th anniversary special, Reynolds cracked a joke about the entire ordeal, turning a serious lawsuit into late-night comedy. But Justin Baldon's team isn't laughing.
Awesome. Who else? Who else has a question?
I have a question.
Oh, hey, Ryan Reynolds.
Hi.
Hey. Ryan Reynolds, how's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard?
Baldwin's lawyers are livid, calling Reynolds' SNL moment a planned skit meant to publicly humiliate Baldwin. All this while, they're actively working to prove that Lively is intentionally hiding crucial evidence. Reynolds insists it was just a joke, but Baldwin's team isn't buying it. They argue it was something far more deliberate, a calculated move to manipulate public opinion and downplay the seriousness of the case.
Worst of all, in a planned skit on NBC's Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary special, which attracted 15 million viewers, Miss Lively's husband Ryan Reynolds stood up and made a joke about her claims for sexual harassment and emotional distress. Yeah, it's a pretty strong argument. Now you're saying like anything being revealed to the public would be too much, but weren't you guys the one that like made like a whole movie?
Blake Lively's legal team isn't backing down, and they're making it clear why they're pushing to keep certain details hidden. In their latest motion, they argue that the case involves high-profile figures and serious allegations of sexual harassment, and revealing specific information could potentially put key witnesses at risk.
And you want some stuff to remain private, like those names and, other stuff to do with the case. But then you're going to go as public as possible and do a joke on SNL's big night, the 50th anniversary. And the joke then is kind of about, is it about sexual abuse then? Because that's what your wife's laughing, laughing.
Lively's team isn't just dealing in hypotheticals. They claim she, her family, and even cast members from the It Ends With Us set have already been bombarded with violent, profane, sexist, and outright threatening messages. With tensions running this high, they argue that an enhanced protective order is necessary to prevent things from spiraling even further. But here's where things get complicated. That same concern didn't seem to apply when the tables were turned on Justin Baldwin. When rumors about him started circulating, there was no hesitation in letting that information spread. No apparent worry about how it might affect his safety or reputation. Now, with serious allegations involved, Lively's team is pushing hard for stricter protection. Yet when the narrative wasn't about her, that level of caution was noticeably absent. Blake Lively isn't just fighting a legal battle. She's battling for control of the narrative. In her amended complaint, she paints a heartbreaking picture of personal suffering, describing how relentless online harassment has left her feeling trapped, isolated, and emotionally drained. She even claims that on some days, the attacks are so overwhelming that getting out of bed feels impossible. But let's be honest, does that match up with how she and her husband have been acting? From the outside, there's been no shortage of smiles, public appearances, and even jokes. If things are as devastating as she describes, why doesn't it show? Lively's team insists this ordeal has taken a serious toll on her mental health, physical well-being, and career. Yet the public has still seen Ryan cracking jokes, keeping up with business ventures, and carrying on like nothing's wrong.
I also find it interesting that they're trying to pretend that it's a case, that they're essentially trying to protect people who may have been victimized by sexual harassment, when it was actually Blake Lively in that initial filing that said everything but the name, right? Like when she was trying to imply, like wink, wink, I'm not gonna name Lily Bloom. She was like pulling the Kanye, I'm not gonna say who it was, and then she just says it.
It's not about downplaying what they might be going through. But at what point does this shift from a genuine plea for protection to a calculated attempt to win public sympathy? As Ryan himself once said, when you're truly going through it, you don't joke about it.
I think Justin's team makes a really good point. I think he at no point was, and this is kind of an issue with the whole the press run for It Ends With Us, is that like he thought this was a very serious movie. And even now, Blake Lively has made these essentially very serious claims if they are true. Why are we laughing about this on SNL 50? Like, nothing about this is funny. And it's like, it's only tongue-in-cheek when seemingly Blake Lively's team wants to make it tongue-in-cheek, but like, Justin Baldoni is apparently the worst man in the world.
Right.
Like, you can't really have your cake and eat it.
The courtroom isn't just a place for legal arguments. It's a battlefield for control over the entire narrative. When Blake Lively first filed her complaint, she came out swinging, aggressive, and confident, likely believing Justin Baldoni would back down under the pressure. But now that Baldoni isn't just holding his ground, he's coming back with receipts. Lively's tone seems to have shifted. Her legal team is suddenly pushing hard to keep certain details sealed, claiming, It's about protecting key witnesses and preventing intimidation. But let's be honest, this sudden pivot to secrecy raises eyebrows. If there's truly nothing to hide, why the rush to lock everything down? Baldoni's side is calling for transparency, and let's face it, that kind of confidence usually comes from someone who believes the truth is on their side.
Attorney's eyes only is a different designation. It's essentially a request for documents that could indeed be extremely relevant to the case. And they're saying, we only want this to be shared between the attorneys, not even with the parties to the suit. So that means, Brian Friedman can see it, their lawyers can see it, but we're talking like not even Melissa Nathan or Justin Baldoni could see it, because it might be very damaging to third parties.
So what changed? The way Lively is now pulling back after starting so aggressively makes it look like she wasn't prepared for this level of pushback. And if she's suddenly on the defensive, it's only fair to ask, what is she really trying to keep hidden? One of the most controversial parts of Blake Lively's lawsuit is her claim that other women have come forward with similar allegations against Justin Baldoni. In her amended complaint, Lively's legal team presents anonymous testimonies from women who say they felt uncomfortable working with Baldoni on the set of It Ends With Us. But here's the catch. These women remain unnamed, and there's no way to verify their stories. Baldwin's lawyers are calling this a calculated move, arguing that anonymous accusations can't be properly challenged in court. They're demanding full transparency, questioning why Lively's team is leaning on secrecy if their case is as strong.
Ms. Lively's counsel and spokesperson routinely attempted to rehabilitate her tarnished image with making bold statements to the press, such as characterizing the Wayfarer parties as quote unquote another chapter in the abuse playbook, or trying to convince the press that her amended complaint saves her meritless claims by referencing other purported victims, although she fails to name a single one.
This leaves one big question hanging. Are these authentic testimonies from real victims, or just another calculated move to tarnish Baldwin's reputation without concrete proof? One thing's clear. This Hollywood showdown is only heating up. We'll be tracking every twist, turn, and revelation along the way. So stay tuned, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for all the latest updates as this intense drama keeps unfolding.